Hey, good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing today? Hey, this is Gregory Wilds coming live to you from Houston, Texas with his inspirational morning walk. For first-time listeners, I just get some exercise in the mornings and I share my thoughts with you guys, whatever I'm inspired to talk about. But today, outside here is a trash day and the dump truck is making a lot of noise, so I'll sit right in here quickly and get this word out. I can try to be quick this morning because I have some stuff to do later on, but I just want to come and inspire someone this morning. I just want to give a quick little inspiration, a quick little hope to someone this morning who's going through something. They're being broken right now. They're being broken. Right, and I think is the end of it. I thank God forget them, like the stories what we did, like the guys on the boat. I thank God probably sleeping on the case, in the case what we did with Martha and Lazarus, you got to remove the stone to see the miracle, right? So all this is in line with that. So we're looking at these same stories that we grew up hearing and the popular ones in the Bible and everything, but we're looking a little deeper into them to pick up the little nuggets that we might missing, those spiritual nuggets that we might be missing along all those years and just focusing on the big picture, right? So this morning, Mercer Grippa, how are you doing, man? Been a while. So we're looking at these little same stories. So today what we're going to look at quickly is when it's a process of broken. After you're being broken, the multiplication comes after the broken process. If you stick with the word and stay in your faith, there's a multiplication process comes after being broken, right? So I'm going to explain what I mean. So if you're going through something right now, you're going through something, stay with it, stay within the scripture, believe, stay holding on to the word and believe, right? Because there's a multiplication process coming, meaning you'll be multiplied. Things are going to get better after the process if you stay with it and have that faith, right? So we're going to look deeply into some stories that we're so familiar with. When Jesus feed the 5,000, when he feed the 4,000, and the breaking of the bread of the Last Supper. And we're going to see what I'm talking about and this breaking process, right? So let's go through it quickly. When Jesus heard, this is Matthew 14, 13 through 21. Matthew 14, 13 through 21, this is when Jesus feed the 5,000, right? When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. As evening approached, the disciple came to him and said, "This is a remote place and is already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food." Jesus replied, They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." Right? You give them something to eat. We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 small fishes, right? Five loaves of bread and 2 small fishes. "Bring them to me," he said, and he directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the two fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves, right? He gave thanks and broke the loaves. He broke the loaves, right? He broke them, right? Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples give them to the people. So what happened in the process of breaking? As he break it and look up to heaven, they multiply, right? They multiply. It's not a coincidence we say he break the loaves and look up to heaven, right? So during the breaking process, this is a little nugget here that we got to extract. After he broke the loaves, then he gave them to his disciples. After he break them, then he gave them to the disciples and they give to the people. They all ate, were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 baskets of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men besides the women and children, right? So that's when he feed the 5,000. Let's look quickly when he feed the 4,000. And see what happened. Now I'm going to go through all the stuff. It's the same scenario. He was healing the sick and all the good stuff. And then you had compassion and want to feed the people. So we can pick it up from Matthew 15, 35 through 39 is when he feed the 4,000 now, right? He told the crowd to sit down on the ground. Then he looked and took the 7 loaves and the fish. And when he had given thanks, he broke them. You see, he gave thanks, then he broke them and gave them to the disciples. And they in turn to the people. They all ate, were satisfied. Afterward, the disciple picked up 7 baskets. So I really, you guys know the story. I really just want to focus on the breaking of these things before they multiply. He broke them and then they multiply. There's a principle there. In a multiplication process, some kind of breaking happen before that happens. So if you're going through a little tough time right now, you're probably going through your breaking period before the multiplication period, but you got to stay with it. You got to stay in faith. You got to believe, right? And the multiplication process is going to come after the breaking. Let's see here in Matthew 26:26, the next little principle with that. Matthew 26:26. While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take it and eat it. This is my body." See what he did? While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and give it to the disciples. Another breaking here, right? And we do this as the Holy Communion, right? When we break the bread and give the wine, right? And we signifying with torn of the bread, with the broken bread, we signify that we remember the physical body of Jesus Christ, a body that was beaten, afflicted, and of temptations of every kind, a body that bore a burden of anguish sufficient to bleed at every pore, a body whose flesh was torn and whose heart was broken in the crucifixion. So when we do this, we remembering what he went through on the cross, right? We doing it what met you on the cross. But what happened after the resurrection? After the resurrection, his body was whole again. And then that, you know all what the resurrection did for us. But a breaking had to happen. He suffered. And after it was all over, look how good life is for us. And his body come back to, his body was perfect again. So I'm just trying to encourage someone, hold the faith. He's not sleeping on your case. He hasn't forgotten about you. But remember, in the case of Lazarus, he said he can waited some time so he can get the glory out of this, right? He can get a glory. Maybe trying to get your attention to get you deep in your word, but you have to stay with it, have the faith. But after the breaking process come the multiplication process, where you will be multiplied once you stay with it and have the faith, right? He feed the 5,000, the same process. He break the bread, give it, and it just miraculously continue to multiply. Same thing with the 4,000. And same thing what he doing at the resurrection, at the Last Supper, right, guys? So I just want to come on this morning. I got to go a little quick today, but somebody needs to hear this. What you're going through is not the end all, be all. Have the faith, hold on the word, and just keep going. It's a breaking process, just like gold, just like your food you cook. It got to go into the fire first. You got to cut up all those ingredients that you got and bring them together. Right? As you say, all things work together for good. You got all these ingredients to bake a nice cake. Pamela Jefferson, good morning. But you got the flour separated, you got the egg, you got the water, you got the milk, you got all of that. No, you got to bring all of the stuff together, mix it up together with some mixer or something. And then after that, you got to put it in the heat. And then before it come out to be the beautiful cake you're trying to bake, right? So that's the breaking process. But the multiplication is going to come after that. So you stay in your feet. That's the main thing. Hold on his word, stay in your feet, and you will get that multiplication process. Just like how we break the bread. When he feed the 5,000, feed the 4,000, and then it multiplied. But he had to break the bread first, then give thanks. And then he gave it to the disciples to feed them, right after it's broken. So I can leave it there, guys. I can leave it there, but it's not the end all be all, whatever you're going through. No. Before the multiplication comes, before it be multiplied, some kind of breaking does happen. Maybe this is your breaking period, and then you'll be multiplied after that. All right, guys, have a great day. We'll talk again on Friday. Okay, bye.